The village of Himorogi was nestled deep in the misty folds of the Higashiyama Mountains. It was a place untouched by modernity, where dense forests whispered secrets to the thin, chill air, and life moved to the rhythm of ancient customs. Dirt paths wound lazily between solemn wooden houses, their paper-screened doors glowing faintly at night. At first glance, Himorogi appeared to be peaceful, a sanctuary locked in time. But if you stayed long enough, you'd notice the cracks in the serene facade. The villagers carried a quiet, nervous watchfulness that lingered in their eyes, and their voices dropped to strained whispers whenever you asked about the shrine atop the hill. You see, no one dared visit the shrine after sundown. Yuta Tanaka wasn't from Himorogi. He had arrived 2 weeks ago, hoping to escape the chaos of Tokyo and finish his novel in solitude. A struggling author, he'd spent years telling himself he'd write something great, if only he had the space to think. Himorogi, with its isolation and old-world charm, seemed perfect. He had rented a small cottage by the edge of the woods, close enough to the village, but far enough to feel alone. The rent was cheap, almost suspiciously cheap, but Yuta hadn't questioned it. He needed peace, and Himorogi seemed determined to give it to him. But peace, he learned, wasn't what Himorogi had to offer. It started on his 4th night. Yuta sat by the low dining table, staring blankly at his laptop. The cursor blinked mockingly on the empty page, his thoughts as stagnant as the mist that clung to the village every morning. Frustrated, he poured himself another cup of green tea and slid open the door to the porch. The forest loomed ahead, an ink-black mass in the moonlight. The air was cool but carried a strange heaviness, sticky and unsettling. Somewhere, deep within the trees, came a sound, soft, deliberate, like footsteps pressing into damp earth. Yuta froze, his breath catching. He squinted into the forest, heart pounding. The sound grew closer, and then it stopped. Silence. Not even the cicadas stirred. Then, faintly, almost imperceptibly, he heard a woman's voice.
Help me.
It was a whisper carried on the wind, brittle with fear. Yuta stiffened, every muscle in his body taut. The voice came again, fainter this time, as if the forest itself were swallowing it whole.
Help me.
Against every ounce of logic screaming at him to stay put, Yuta grabbed a flashlight and stepped off the porch. The beam of light cut through the darkness, but it did little to comfort him. The voice guided him deeper into the woods, each step pulling him further from the safety of his cottage. Twisted roots and gnarled branches seemed to bristle with an unseen malice, and the air grew colder with every step. "Hello?" Yuta called, his voice trembling. "Who's there? Are you hurt?" The voice didn't answer. Instead, the forest seemed to groan, a deep, resonant sound that made Yuta's stomach churn. And then he saw it. At the base of an ancient, withered tree stood a torii gate, its vermilion paint faded and peeling. Beyond the gate lay the shrine, its thatched roof sagging under years of neglect. The air around it was suffocating, thick with an unnatural stillness. Yuta's flashlight flickered. He felt the hair on the back of his neck rise as he realized he wasn't alone. A figure stood beneath the torii gate. It was a woman, her long black hair hiding her face. She wore a tattered white kimono stained with mud and something darker. Her bare feet were motionless, but her body swayed gently, like a leaf caught in a phantom breeze. "Miss?" Yuta managed to whisper, his voice barely audible over the roaring of his own heartbeat. The woman's head jerked up, and Yuta's flashlight flickered again, plunging the forest into complete darkness for a fraction of a second. When the beam returned, she was gone. Yuta stumbled back to his cottage, his mind reeling. Who was she? Had she been real? The villagers would know, he thought. They had to know. But when he asked about the shrine the next day, Their responses chilled him to the core. "You went near the shrine?" an old woman hissed, her wrinkled face blanching as she clutched her grandson protectively. "Don't go back. Stay away from that place." Others avoided his gaze entirely, muttering half-hearted excuses to end the conversation. Only Akio, the owner of the small local inn, agreed to speak to him. Even then, it was late at night, and the older man's voice was hushed.
The shrine belongs to something ancient, something we don't name. It's been here longer than the village itself. The kami there, it's not benevolent. Long ago, we used to leave offerings to keep it appeased. Rice, sake, even animals. But something changed. Even the offerings stopped working.
Akio's words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of untold fears and cursed whispers. A girl disappeared. This was years ago. Her name was Emmy, sweet child, only 12. One day she wandered into the woods, near the shrine. Search parties combed the forest for weeks, but all they found were scraps of her kimono. And blood. Yuta's blood ran cold. "They say the thing at the shrine uses her voice to lure people in," Akio continued. "Those who go looking, they don't come back." Over the following days, Yuta became consumed by the mystery. He could feel the shrine's pull, a sinister gravity that gnawed at his thoughts. He started dreaming of the woman beneath the gate, her lifeless eyes, her blood-soaked kimono, the way her head jerked up as if something else were moving her body. Each morning, he woke drenched in sweat, the whispers still echoing in his ears. His writing stagnated. He stopped venturing into the village and spent his days pacing the cottage, the weight of the shrine pressing down on him like a phantom hand. And then, one night, the whispers returned. "Help me." It was fainter this time, more urgent. Yuta clenched his fists, his breath shallow. He knew it was a trap. He knew the stories. But something deeper, almost primal, compelled him to grab his flashlight and follow the voice once more. The forest was even darker this time, the twisted branches overhead forming a canopy that smothered the moonlight. The torii gate loomed ahead, the shrine beyond it radiating an oppressive aura. Yuta forced himself to step closer. And then he saw her. The woman was kneeling before the shrine, her back to him. Her shoulders heaved as if she were weeping, though no sound escaped her. Yuta's flashlight flickered weakly, but he could make out the splintered remains of an old offering box in front of her. Something glinted inside it. "Miss?" Yuta's voice cracked. "Miss, you shouldn't be here." The woman froze, her head tilting ever so slightly to the side. Yuta's knees trembled as she slowly began to turn. Her face was obscured by her hair, but her movements were jerky, unnatural, as though her body were a marionette controlled by unseen strings. And then she spoke. "You shouldn't have come." Her voice was a hollow rasp, layered with something inhuman. Before Yuta could react, the air grew frigid, and a low, guttural growl rumbled from the shrine. The shadows seemed to writhe, stretching and coiling like living things. "Run!" The instinct hit Yuta like a lightning bolt. He turned and sprinted, stumbling over roots and rocks as the darkness seemed to reach for him. The growl followed, growing louder, closer, until it morphed into a deafening cacophony of voices, screaming, wailing, crying for help. Yuta didn't stop until he reached his cottage. He slammed the door shut, his chest heaving as sweat poured down his face. The growling had stopped, but the whispers hadn't. They were inside now. The days that followed were a blur. Sleep was impossible. The whispers never left. No matter where Yuta went, they followed, growing louder with each passing day. The villagers avoided him entirely now, their fearful glances only deepening his paranoia. Desperate, he returned to Akio. It won't leave me alone, Yuta pleaded, his voice hoarse. What can I do? Akio's face was ashen. You went back? I didn't have a choice. You sealed your fate, Tanaka-san, Akio said grimly. The shrine's kami. It's attached to you now. It feeds on fear, despair. The more you run, the stronger it grows. Yuta's chest tightened. So what? I just let it take me? For a long moment, Akio didn't answer. Then he placed a shaking hand on Yuta's shoulder. There's one way. The torii gate stood before Yuta once more. This time, he carried no flashlight, no talisman to ward off evil. Only a small blade, its edge faintly glinting in the pale moonlight. The shrine waited, silent and hungry. Yuta stepped forward. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the depths of Himorogi's darkness. What lies beyond the shrine, you must decide for yourself. If you enjoyed this chilling tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow our channel for more stories like this one. Until next time, keep the lights on.